the Cleveland Browns training camp just witnessed one of the most explosive media meltdowns in recent memory. Tony Grossi thought he had the perfect ammunition to tear down Shedeur Sanders. Instead, he walked straight into a verbal beatdown that exposed his clear agenda against Coach Prime's son. What started as routine injury reporting quickly escalated into a heated confrontation that left Grossi scrambling to defend his credibility. The ESPN Cleveland insider found himself on the wrong end of a passionate defense from Tony Rizzo, who wasn't having any of Grossi's negative narrative. During Monday's ESPN Cleveland broadcast with Tony Rizzo, Grossi launched his attack on Sanders' arm soreness situation. His words were calculated and pointed. He's got the fewest reps in camp and he's got a sore arm. Why? Well, people say he throws a lot before practice and after practice. Well, how counterproductive is that?
He's got the fewest reps in camp and he's got a sore arm. Why? Well, people say he throws a lot before practice and after practice. Well, how counterproductive is that?
The implication was clear. Grossi wanted listeners to believe Sanders was somehow failing despite working harder than his competitors. The veteran broadcaster doubled down on his criticism, adding fuel to an already contentious situation. Rizzo immediately pushed back, offering a reasonable explanation. "I'm sure there's a method to the madness. He's probably trying to get his arm right. I'm sure he's probably practiced more now than he has at any point in his collegiate career." That's when everything changed. Rizzo's patience finally snapped. "Okay, so you're using that as a negative against the kid? I don't understand. Would you give him a chance? Because he's working too hard. You got an agenda with that. Jesus God. Would you give him a chance? My God. Because his arm's sore. What? That's a negative that the kid's got a sore arm because he's working too hard. The hell out of here."
Okay, so you're using that as a negative against the kid?
I don't understand.
Jesus God, would you give him a chance?
Well,
My God,
here's the
because his
thing.
arm's sore?
Yeah.
What, that's a negative that the kid's got a sore arm?
Yes.
Because he's working too hard? The hell out of here.
Working against who?
When Grossi tried to interject with, "Working against who?" Rizzo shut him down completely. "Get out! Get out of here! You got an agenda with that. You know what, Tony? That's gonna bite you."
Get out of here. You got an agenda with that. You're going to, you know what,
Riz.
Tone? That's going to bite you.
Here's where Grossi's attack completely backfires. The numbers from training camp tell a completely different story than his negative commentary suggests. Through 9 practices, Sanders posted a 4.9 for 7.0 completion rate, translating to an impressive 70% accuracy. He threw 6 touchdowns with 0 interceptions. Compare that to his supposed superior, Dillon Gabriel, who managed just 6 2 for 113, 54.9%, with 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Joe Flacco, the veteran everyone expects to start, completed 5 4 for 9 2 passes, 58.7%, with 3 touchdowns and no picks. Even Kenny Pickett, before his hamstring injury, went 2 3 for 3, 67.6%, with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. Sanders leads every quarterback in completion percentage. He's tied for the best touchdown-to-interception ratio, yet Grossi chose to focus on arm soreness instead of acknowledging these superior numbers. The injury situation became clearer when Sanders addressed the media himself. His explanation revealed the professionalism Grossi refused to acknowledge. "That's all it truly is," Sanders said about his arm soreness. "Sometimes you go in hot, then you wait for a second, and then you get cold, then get back hot. My arm and body weren't used to that, so it's just an adjustment within my body and within my arm." This wasn't the story of a quarterback who couldn't handle the workload. This was a player adapting to the stop-and-start rhythm of NFL training camp for the first time in his career. Sanders further clarified his approach during a Monday media session. "It was just the starting and stopping, that's all it truly is. You know, sometimes you'll go in hot, then you'll get cold, then back hot, then cold. My arm and body just wasn't used to that, so it's just an adjustment with the body." The self-reporting aspect drew attention from multiple sources. Mary Kay Cabot said, "The fact that he self-reported the soreness is significant because he's still involved in the 4-way competition for the starting job and wouldn't miss a snap unless he absolutely had to." Head coach Kevin Stefanski's comments directly contradict Grossi's negative portrayal of Sanders' work ethic and preparation. "You know where they're getting reps and those type of things. He's working extremely hard like all those guys are. You know, we're still not yet through the installation schedule. We're still just introducing 2-minute yesterday. We'll introduce some different distances today situationally, so I wouldn't really think much past that."
You know, where they're getting reps and those type of things. He's working extremely hard like all those guys are. We're still not yet through the installation schedule. We're still just introducing 2-minute yesterday. We'll introduce some different distances today situationally, so I wouldn't really think much past that.
Stefanski's words paint a picture of a quarterback fully engaged in the learning process, not someone struggling with basic conditioning or preparation issues as Grossi suggested. Former NFL star Shannon Sharpe provided additional context that further undermines Grossi's position. Sharpe emphasized the significance of Sanders speaking up about his discomfort.
Shedeur reported that, man, I got some arm soreness.
That just look, yeah, right, that rotated cup, that little rotated cup.
I mean, you're throwing a lot, you know. For him to say that and not just eat it because he is in a stiff competition battle, that tells you that it's bothering him.
Yeah, serious.
It's bothering.
Sharpe's analysis from his own experience as a lower-round draft pick added weight to the discussion. I was a low-round draft pick, but I have a little nick. Nah, bro, I'm in a competition. I'm good. You eat. You sit on things. Knee sore, ankle sore, something sore. You got a thigh bruise or something. You just eat that.
Me, I was a low-round draft pick. You have to worry about you a second-round pick. But I have a little nick. Nah, bro, I'm in a competition. I'm good.
Right.
You eat, you sit on things, knee sore, you know, ankle sore, shoulder sore, something sore, you know.
Right.
You just, you know, you got a thigh bruise or something, Ocho, you just eat that.
Yeah.
The Hall of Famer's perspective suggested Sanders' willingness to report soreness indicated genuine physical concern, not weakness or poor preparation. Grossi's attack on Sanders' arm soreness represents just the latest example in a pattern of negative coverage. The veteran reporter has consistently found ways to criticize Sanders despite impressive performance metrics. During earlier training camp sessions, Grossi focused on isolated poor performances while ignoring overall statistical superiority. He charted specific practice segments, noting Sanders went 3 of 8 in his second set of 7-on-7, while the other guy was 6 of 8.
He was 3 of 8 in his second set of 7-on-7.
Who was 3 of 8?
Shedeur.
Okay.
The other guy was 6 of 8. Okay. Slightly better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
When pressed about these selective statistics, Grossi defended his approach. This is a period where the ball is not supposed to hit the ground unless a defender wraps it up, but they are rookies.
This is a period where the ball is not supposed to hit the ground unless a defender wraps it around.
But they are rookies.
The excuse fell flat when considering Sanders' overall 70% completion rate through 9 practices. Grossi's bias becomes most apparent in his treatment of Dillon Gabriel versus Shedeur Sanders. Despite Gabriel's inferior statistical performance, Grossi consistently positions him as the more prepared quarterback. The numbers don't support this narrative. Gabriel's 54.9% completion rate trails Sanders by more than 15 percentage points. Gabriel has thrown 2 interceptions to Sanders' 0. Yet Grossi maintains Gabriel represents the Browns' future. When discussing development timelines, Grossi suggested Sanders needs at least 4 years to fully develop, while positioning Gabriel as ready to contribute immediately. The statistical evidence suggests the opposite. Grossi's judgment came under further scrutiny during a media session when he asked Sanders about potential MRI imaging for his arm soreness. Sanders responded with obvious confusion. For what? The question seemed to catch the quarterback off guard, suggesting Grossi was attempting to create a story where none existed. When Grossi doubled down with, "So it didn't happen?" Sanders looked his way, cracked a smile, gave a slight disapproving side-to-side headshake and said, "Buddy, come on now!" The exchange highlighted Grossi's apparent desire to manufacture controversy around Sanders' minor injury. Sanders' decision to self-report his arm soreness actually demonstrates the kind of maturity and self-awareness teams value in young quarterbacks. Sanders explained his reasoning. "I always hear my dad's voice in my mind. It's always bone or blood. You know his motto and you know his slang with everything. Of course, I was definitely hearing his voice in the back of my head, but at the end of the day, I want to be productive. I want to give you the best work. I want to be at my best at all times." The approach showed Sanders understood the difference between pushing through minor discomfort and risking further injury during crucial evaluation periods. Shedeur Sanders shocked everyone at Browns camp this week. He wasn't supposed to be the star. He was just the new rookie, 3rd on the depth chart. But then, during practice on Monday, something crazy happened. 1 perfect throw, 1 touchdown. And suddenly the whole team, and even the coaches, started looking at him differently. What happened next has everyone talking. Sanders walks onto that field running with the second-team offense, not the first team, not even close to starter consideration according to most people, but then something magical happened during those 11-on-11 drills. Sanders uncorked this absolutely gorgeous touchdown bomb to rookie receiver Gage Larvadane that had the entire practice facility going silent for a hot second. We're talking surgical precision here. Corner Cameron Mitchell was right there in coverage, doing everything right, but it didn't matter one bit. The ball placement was so perfect that only Larvadane could reach it, and he hauled it in for 6 points that nobody saw coming. But here's the crazy part. Sanders did all of this while sitting third on the depth chart behind Joe Flacco and Dillon Gabriel. Kenny Pickett missed Monday's session with a hamstring injury, which pushed Sanders into that third quarterback spot. Third string, limited reps, but maximum impact. And when you break down the film, you can see exactly why people are starting to pay attention. Sanders stepped up in that pocket under pressure like a seasoned veteran, set his feet properly, and delivered what can only be described as a frozen rope that split the defense right down the middle. This wasn't some lucky heave that happened to work out. This was precision quarterbacking from a fifth-round pick who most people thought would be fighting just to make the 53-man roster. But the real tea started spilling when Jerry Jeudy opened his mouth after practice. Now, Judy's been around long enough to know how to give those perfect diplomatic answers to reporters. When they asked him about the quarterback competition, he gave them exactly what you'd expect. He said he's seen all the guys getting better each day, working toward their goals, doing what they're supposed to do on and off the field. Textbook response, right? But here's where it gets interesting. Judy's body language was telling a completely different story. See, the Pro Bowl receiver has been catching passes from all 4 quarterbacks during individual drills throughout camp. That's normal. Everyone gets their work in during those sessions. But when it comes to team situations, when they're running actual plays with the first team, Jeudy has only connected with 3 of those quarterbacks. Sanders is the only quarterback who hasn't thrown to Jeudy during first-team reps. Think about that for a second. But according to people close to the situation, that's about to change real quick. The rep distribution through the first 4 practices tells you everything you need to know about Cleveland's internal evaluation process. Dillon Gabriel has been leading the pack with 12 team series. Joe Flacco has gotten 9. Kenny Pickett managed 7 before that hamstring injury sidelined him. And Sanders? He's been sitting at the bottom with limited opportunities. But here's what makes this whole situation wild. Sanders has been maximizing every single one of those opportunities. We're talking about a guy who went perfect, 4 for 4 on one practice day. Another session had him completing 5 out of 8 passes, while Gabriel went 4 for 8. Flacco managed 4 for 11, and Pickett only connected on 2 out of 6 attempts. And get this, Sanders threw the only touchdown pass that day, despite getting the fewest reps. His completion percentage has been higher than everyone else while getting minimal chances. That's not luck, that's efficiency. But the real game changer here is what Myles Garrett has been doing behind the scenes. After Friday's practice, Sanders stayed on that field working with center Brady Lamb to fix some bad snap exchanges. Pretty standard stuff for a rookie trying to get better, but then Cleveland's $160 million franchise cornerstone walks over and starts helping out. We're talking about Myles Garrett here, the guy who just became the highest-paid non-quarterback in the entire NFL. The same player who demanded trade back in February because Cleveland was a non-contender. The same guy who got his massive extension in March with one crystal-clear message: I expect to get to the Super Bowl. When your franchise defensive star voluntarily spends extra time after practice helping the 5th-round quarterback, that sends shockwaves through the entire organization. Garrett's actions are speaking way louder than any depth chart could. And Garrett hasn't been shy about his feelings either. After throwing out the first pitch at a Texas Rangers game, he told reporters exactly what he thinks about Sanders. Garrett said he thinks everyone was surprised to see Sanders go in the 5th round, but that he's come to camp and OTAs with a great attitude. He called him hardworking, said he has a good head on his shoulders, and praised how he's always positive, always optimistic, always keeps a smile on his face. Then Garrett dropped this gem. You like going to work with people who have that kind of attitude. That's not some throwaway comment from a veteran trying to be nice to the rookie. That's the highest-paid defensive player in the league, giving his stamp of approval to a guy most people thought would struggle to make the roster. The organizational attention has been impossible to ignore. GM Andrew Barry and head coach Kevin Stefanski have been spotted closely observing Sanders during his training session reps. This wasn't casual watching either. Both executives were locked in on every move, every throw, every decision Sanders made. Offensive coordinator Tony Rizzo has been watching Sanders closely from the sideline during practices too. When you see that level of focus from the coaching staff, you know something's shifting internally. Here's the context that makes all of this even more urgent. Cleveland's offense was absolutely brutal last season. They ranked 30th in scoring at just 17.1 points per game. Meanwhile, their defense posted an elite 82.2 PFF grade, but that offense? A pathetic 62.1 PFF grade, dead last in the entire league. Garrett can't carry that garbage again. He made that clear when he signed that extension. Kenny Pickett's hamstring injury is opening the door wider for Sanders and Gabriel to make their statements, but injuries change everything in this league. Pickett's $2.6 million guaranteed contract provided some job security, but performance trumps economics when playoff hopes are on the line. The timeline creates natural pressure too. Sanders has no better time to prove himself than right now. Cleveland's quarterback uncertainty won't exist in 2026 when elite prospects like Arch Manning enter the draft. If Sanders fails to capitalize on this opportunity, his NFL window could close quickly. The CFL's Toronto team already holds his rights as a fallback option. But let's talk about what the veterans are really seeing. Chad Johnson accidentally spilled some serious tea during an appearance on Nightcap with Shannon Sharpe. He was talking about having conversations with people in Cleveland, and he accidentally dropped Denzel Ward's name before catching himself. Johnson said he talked to Ward and some other people, and they all said the same thing about Sanders. He looked different. There's a difference when that young bull is out there spinning that ball. Johnson affirmed Sanders' distinct football prowess, regardless of team placement, setting him apart from competitors beyond mere media or social media buzz. The Cleveland Browns just pulled off one of the most disrespectful moves in recent NFL history. Shedeur Sanders, the former Colorado quarterback who was once projected as a first or second round pick, now sits at the bottom of a four-man quarterback competition before he's even stepped foot in his first training camp. We're talking about a player who entered the draft as one of the most highly regarded quarterback prospects. Some analysts ranked him even higher than Miami's Cam Ward, who went first overall to the Tennessee Titans. Yet, here we are, with Sanders watching trade rumors swirl around him like vultures circling their prey. The disrespect started on draft day, and it's only getting worse. Let me break down exactly what's happening here and why the Browns' treatment of Sanders is absolutely shocking. Sanders walked into the 2025 NFL Draft with sky-high expectations. He was widely regarded as one of the top two passing prospects alongside Cam Ward. The projection, first or second round, no question. Then the unthinkable happened. Sanders watched as four other quarterbacks got called before him. Ole Miss's Jackson Dart went to the New York Giants at pick 25 after a trade-up move. Louisville's Tyler Show got selected by the Saints in round 2. Alabama's Jalen Milroe went to the Seahawks in round 3. Even Oregon's Dylan Gabriel got picked by the Browns in the 3rd round. Sanders, he fell all the way to the 5th round, pick 144 overall. All 32 NFL teams passed on him for more than 4 rounds. Think about that for a second. There's less space separating Sanders from the last pick in the draft than there is from pick 144 and the first pick of the draft. Throughout this humiliating slide, Sanders kept his composure. He posted on X Saturday morning, "Another day, another opportunity to get a chance to play the game I love. Thank you, God, legendary." After finally getting selected by Cleveland, he simply wrote, "Thank you, God." But the real disrespect was just beginning. The Browns didn't just draft Sanders and give him a fair shot. They created a quarterback battlefield with 4 healthy players fighting for one starting job. Sanders now faces Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dylan Gabriel. The same Dylan Gabriel who got picked 2 rounds ahead of him. With Deshaun Watson expected to miss another season after re-tearing his Achilles, you'd think there might be opportunity. Instead, the Browns have created the most competitive quarterback situation in the NFL. Veterans Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett are considered the most likely starters. Gabriel, as a 3rd-round pick, sits ahead of Sanders in the pecking order. Where does that leave Sanders? Dead last on the depth chart. General Manager Andrew Berry claims he's open to keeping all 4 quarterbacks if they play well enough. But here's the reality. The Browns will likely only keep 2, maybe 3 quarterbacks maximum. Sanders is fighting for his NFL life before he's even put on pads. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, NFL analyst Emmanuel Acho delivered the most brutal assessment possible. He labeled Sanders a camp body.